welcome to the ERC Video Journal, today with a report about the United Kingdom. The UK was the last EU member state with a small but quite realistic chance to hold a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. Every party within the House of Commons was elected in 2005 under the promise within their manifestos of holding a referendum on the EU Constitution. Today, Prime Minister Gordon Brown and the Labour Party, as well as the Liberal Democrats, claim that the Lisbon Treaty no longer affects Britain's constitutional framework and therefore does not require a referendum. The Conservatives, however, express the opinion that the treaty is nothing but the Constitution itself with a different name. There is a large number of rebels from both the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party, including Ian Davidson, a prominent Labour rebel.
A report which came from the House of Commons European Scrutiny Committee. This cross-party group has said, quote, the new reform treaty is substantially equivalent to the constitutional treaty, including for the UK. Our Prime Minister has, and his spokesman, have been very keen on saying that, and I quote, the constitutional concept has been abandoned. But this report looks at that issue and describes that as, and I quote, misleading.
Caroline Lucas, who sits in the European Parliament for the British Green Party, puts into words thoughts of many British citizens.
Our government, the Labour government, has basically gone back on its word. It promised us a referendum, it was in their manifesto, and now they've decided simply to throw that away and to ignore it. And I think there is a good deal of anger about that in the country, that in a sense our political leaders aren't treating us properly, they are basically treating us with contempt, and I think that does rightfully deserve our anger and frustration in response.
On Wednesday, the 5th March of 2008, parts of the European Union Bill, which is needed to ratify the Lisbon Treaty in the UK, were debated in the Commons. One proposal for an amendment to this bill was put forward by the Conservative Party.
Thank you very much, Sir Alan. I beg to move Amendment 293, which of course is linked with new Clause 1. And the effect of this amendment is very simple. It is that this Act would only come into force, and the Lisbon Treaty would therefore only be ratified by the United Kingdom once there had been, in line with the manifesto commitments of every party in this House, a referendum of the British people.
The vote in the House of Commons resulted in a majority against a referendum by a margin of 63 votes. 311 votes were against and 248 in favour of a referendum. That is, the lower house of the British Parliament denied the British citizens a say on the Lisbon Treaty. The treaty will therefore most likely be ratified in the UK by summer. There have been a lot of protests and debate leading up to this decision. In total, 211,184 people in Britain signed the various petitions to hold a referendum on the treaty. The I Want a Referendum campaign was set up in September 2007. They held various events across the UK and abroad to make the public aware of the treaty and its ratification. On the 2nd March 2008, the I Want a Referendum campaign held several mini-referendums in several constituencies across the UK. The results of the referendums show that 88% of those polled wanted a referendum on the new treaty. On the 27th of February, the campaign organised a demonstration outside Westminster Palace, home of the UK Parliament, where thousands of people turned up to demand their right to vote on the Lisbon Treaty.
Today, thousands of people have descended on Westminster to come and tell their MPs that next week they should vote for a referendum on the European Constitution and allow the British people to have a say on this important issue. Hopefully MPs will listen to voters and respect their wishes and honour their manifesto promise of a referendum.
In London, two demonstrators scaled the crane in Parliament Square and unravelled banners claiming, "Give us our vote." So we have come full circle back to the debate of last Wednesday. The Shadow Foreign Secretary William Hague defended the amendment for referendum.
And in a climate of loss of faith in political institutions, it would do more to restore public confidence in the basic honesty and accountability of our politics than any other single action we could take. Trust in government, the Prime Minister said, was central to his purpose. The leader of the Liberal Democrats called for a new politics, of politicians who listen to people, not to themselves. If they, those leaders, Sir Alan, remain heedless of the arguments for a referendum on this treaty. They will tonight win short-term relief from the views of the electorate, but the damage to their own standing and to the politics and reputation of our country and Parliament is something on which for many years they will have to reflect and repent. Yeah!
If the Lisbon Treaty were ratified without a referendum,
it really seriously undermines the legitimacy of that whole process. The irony is that the whole process was set off by the Laeken Declaration some years back, which specifically said that one of the aims of this whole constitutional process was to reconnect the European citizens with the institutions that are supposed to represent them. Basically, the way in which political leaders have reserved up a repackaged constitution and pretended it's a different document, I think really is so disrespectful to citizens and really undermines the process that they say that they're championing.
we can now only hope that the House of Lords will agree to the amendment when the bill passes through the upper house, and that maybe the government would respect the judgment of the Lords and hold a referendum in the UK on the Lisbon Treaty. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the ERC Video Journal, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next time. Bye bye!